Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Well, we got a small crowd tonight. I don't think it's an unruly crowd. I think I might be able to handle this crowd. How you doing, Manny? How you doing, Trisha? Good to see you, Lloyd. Mark's in the house. Always a pleasure to see you. Bob isn't that. Always a pleasure to see you as well. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get too unruly, this crowd. We're going to do our best to try and get you to the hockey game as quick as we can. But as always, we want to come here and make sure that we spend a little bit of time with our community, make sure that you folks don't miss anything that's going on in the angling community and angling news. I know Lawrence has some quick tidbits of information that he wants to pass along. And Jim, I believe, has something to get off his chest that he can't seem to get out of his ears. I'm just kidding. Anyway, and then, of course, Moose will be coming on later to talk about the charity tournament and what's coming up with the Lunker Bowl with CSFL and OC Nation. And last but not least, Jay Barnucz should be joining us later on. Haven't seen him in the lobby just yet, but it wouldn't be a show without Jason Barnucz. Again, just a couple of announcements. Nothing major to talk about other than, of course, can't emphasize enough. You want to book your butt in a bed at Horwood Lake Lodge, please. August 14th to the 20th. We'd love to see you up there. That is basically the Sunday to the Saturday. Love to see you there. Please get in touch with Warren and Doris. Those are the owners, beloved owners of Horwood Lake Lodge. Love to see you join us. It is an absolutely great event, and don't just take my word for it. Take all of our CFNers' word for it. See you in August. Indeed. Love to see you there. As I said, it's basically the third weekend of August. Just reach out to Warren Indoors. Find out all the details, what it's going to cost you, but more importantly, get that butt booked in a bed because it is going to be a great time. Another great time is going to be held for our second annual OFC Nation retreat up at Camp McIntosh. Can't wait to see myself back at Camp McIntosh. Love this place. And we have some rockin' owners, Andre and Tracy. They're about the best. Just a small second, just in close second. Camp McIntosh, have a look.
Where are you going, Don?
Camp McIntosh.
Yeah, baby.
Of course, that is the 22nd to the 24th of September, OFC Nation. It is our second annual retreat. Really look forward to seeing you there. And Tricia, that is a great question, and something that Mike and I were hopefully going to deliver tonight. But Mike's a busy guy. But I will say this. I have it on a very reliable word that, no, I'm kidding. We met with Bob from Shimano last week on Friday, just to go over some of the pricing, some of the structure, some of the changes to the CFN fish off. Shimano loved it, and loved it so much that you folks are going to be rewarded. Let's just say the prizes are numerous and quite awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that. The registration itself, Tricia, is coming up very, very, very soon. I can't emphasize that enough. The finer details, Mike's just putting together now that we have the announcement from Shimano. And, of course, all of our other sponsors that are going to be participating as well. As I said, if you would like to be a sponsor and help out with the CFN Fish Off, please reach out to me. We'd love to do some great promotion for you. As I said, it's a good time. We're going to have a ton of anglers, and there's going to be lots of incentive for you. So big shout out to Shimano. They stepped up in a huge way, guys. So it can't be emphasized enough. When you get a chance to pat the back, pump their tires of one of our partners and sponsors, please do so. It goes a long way, because at the end of the day, it's all great and good, but it all comes down to sales. And I know perhaps maybe Shimano's not the easiest to buy for, because you kind of have to sometimes some of their gear warrants you budgeting for it. But even if you go in and grab a flash boost, like any little thing helps. So we really appreciate that kind of dedication, that kind of love, and that kind of support. Means the absolute world. New Brunswick Sport Fishing Associate, NBSF. Well, evening, folks, out of New Brunswick. That's awesome to see. Really cool. Richard, as always, thanks so much for all of your sharing. Hopefully that answers your question, Tricia. I can't give you an exact date, but it's coming real soon. Real soon. So outside of that, the group is ready. I'm ready. I think it's time for our first. And technically, after this guy, we could all go to bed. But no, it's always a pleasure to have Big Jim here. And as I said, to come on here every Monday, I can't thank the man enough. So without further delay, let's hear from Jim right after a word from our sponsor. Big Jim McLaughlin.
Yo, yo.
How you doing, buddy? Always a pleasure to see you.
I'm alive. It's always a pleasure to see you too, my friend.
How was the
I
weekend?
was just sitting here the other day, and I realized something we're hanging here that I got is your. I got to give this to you next time I see you. I had Mr. Mercier bring this home for you. Was your
awesome.
It's your all access pass.
That's awesome.
See all those circles?
Wow.
Those circles say backstage, lounge, media, and club.
Well, geez, Jim, we were somebody then. Eh? I know you had a hard time convincing me of that, but we were somebodies for just that short period of time. We were somebodies. How you been, dude?
Hanging in, buddy. Hanging in.
Oh, boy, I saw you
pushing. Get caught up. Like got a little warmer, so I went out and decided to tidy a few things up from the garage.
Yeah.
Does this look all hazy to you?
Yeah. Is it very humid out in Sealy's Bay?
No, it's like 6 degrees and horrid.
Don't hold back, Jim.
What's that?
Oh, that's perfect.
There you go.
I'm sure there's some windows of some folks that would love to see you come over.
Yeah.
So you managed to get a line wet. I noticed. You mentioned that.
I've been out the back a few times there. I keep getting bit off those little spins out, those Great Lakes spins, those little belly spinners.
Yeah.
I put one of Jamie's from True North Baits, one of the little tails he's got on them, and I make one cast and I get bit off. So I tie another one on. I make 3 casts. I get bit off. So I go back to the crankbait and I catch a crappie that's almost 15 inches. That's the one that I posted.
Wow.
And a whole bunch of her. Well, I guess she's a she. I mean, you don't see too many crappies that are fat. This one was fat, big old fish. I put her back in. She looked at me and went and swam away. No grease for that.
I'm sure they all did.
No grease for that.
But one thing that you definitely have had enough of listening to is folks talking about crappie that have spawned too early and the run is over.
I gotta go. So we'll do this again.
Yeah, we'll do this.
The crappies come into shallow water in the springtime.
Yes.
They're not spawning. That's them. They just get attracted to warmer water, muddy bottom. Water warms up fast. They go there to do a little bit of chowing and just hang out in the sun. And that's what they do. That's part of their thing. They don't spawn for probably another month, 3 weeks to a month. So you get that down. Now, if you're looking for them, because the way the weather's been, it's like, it's different everywhere. Like it's, one place is freezing. Like, today here, last week we had days here where it was, 30 degrees, 10 days ago. And today I think I got up to about 8 or something. And it was just a couple of miserable, rainy, overcast days. And I see now coming late in the week, and there's 4 or 5 days of big time rain coming and all this and everything else. But it's what it is. It's the weather, eh?
It is. And for folks who we're looking forward to trout opener, I'll tell you, you couldn't have asked for better weather with that rain, man. If that didn't get them going, I don't know what would have. Yeah,
I heard some good reports out of that. That was really cool. I saw one of the Shimano guys, Buck. He caught a brown trout. Man, are they beautiful?
Aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know a lot about it, but I'm thinking it might be a native fish because it wasn't very big. It was maybe like, I couldn't tell from the picture, 3 pounds maybe. So I'm thinking it's maybe a fish that lives in the river, or if they come up, I know nothing about them. It's not my bag, eh? So it's what they do. But the fish was just beautiful. And that's what he said. It may not be the biggest because they're catching 10, 15 pounds steelhead out of this pool. And then poof, this one shows up and he's just a beauty, eh?
Yeah.
It was just incredible. But back to the crappies. So there's a progression. When they come in the springtime, first place they go is the warm water, the warmest water they can find. And it's almost like they have a GPS hookup to the warmest water. They got Bluetooth going on or something to the temperature because they show up. Any back canals, places that are dug, the very back of marinas, anywhere you get in the back and there's not much of an inflow of water, or if there is a creek coming in, go off to the sides of the creek so the cooler water is coming down the middle. It gets you where the water's sitting still in the sun. That's the first thing that you do. Second place would be shoreline places. All it needs is that black bottom. You see a few bulrushes or something on the shore, a little bit of swamp. Any areas like that are sloped off quick. It can't be this. It's got to be quick down. They just pop up in the spring. They sit in there. You might have to stay back. They're not going to be right at the shore though. And then third, and something people don't pay attention to, and I've had this happen to me at the end of May, even into early June, is offshore places on small islands, humps, reefs, stuff like that. If you've got some spawning water there, and there are crappies there, they will use it, but they use it later because they have to wait for it to warm up. And that's why there's that progression. When a lot of people used to say to me, "Well, the crappies are gone. How did you have pictures? How did you catch them? Whatever." I said, "Well, we went offshore." "Well, I thought they weren't offshore now." "Well, yeah, they are in different places, and that's what you have to do." So it's like really shallow water first. Second is deep water close to shore with swampy stuff close on the shore. And the third one and the last one, and quite often a distant third, is offshore stuff. But that was some of the best days I've ever had for giant crappies have been offshore.
And you would have to say, Jim, that was great, man. I'll tell you, I hope everybody was writing that down because that was a awesome information right there. But in that list of categories of 3, where would you say the majority of them are right now where we live, Jim?
See, we got all different kinds of lakes, eh? So we could be involved in 2 or 3 of them. I think that in most places, that little canal in the back where, there's some place that's been dug out 50 years ago, and there's no creek at the back. It was just dug. It's a dead-end creek. You could probably swim in it now. It'd be so warm. That kind of stuff is going to come to an end now. You're going to start seeing bass back there, which you shouldn't be bothering anyway, and stuff like that. But that shoreline one and getting the stuff that's offshore, little islands that have a little, when you see these little islands, they're like twice the size of your house, and they have a little swamp on one end and a little bay and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that we go out and look for. And you'd go and you'd look, you'd go into 4 or 5, there'd be nothing. And then you'd go into one and go, "Oh my God." And you'd see them. They'd just be everywhere. You know what I mean? This is it. It's hundreds, in some cases, thousands. It's a really, really cool thing to see, but lots of fun. So that allows you to fish for crappies for not just for a week or 10 days or probably not 10 days, but that first thing when they go really shallow in the back of the creeks and that, and channels, that's like just a few days. That lasts for a week or less, probably, depending on the weather. Real quick, eh? It's just go in and out. That's what they do. That people think they're spawning because they come and then they disappear. But crappies make beds. They're a sunfish, so our largemouths, they make beds. And that's why people think crappies make really big beds, but they don't, because they'll often use largemouth beds after the largemouths have used them. That's how late some of the crappies will actually spawn, that they'll actually use a bass bed. So you see a spot that's 4 feet across or 5 feet across with a 10-inch crappie sitting on it,
Interesting. I didn't realize they spawn that late. Interesting.
Yeah. Not all of them. Like, they intermingle. I've gone in bays and seen beds with, beds this big with a crappie sitting on it, and then a bed 6 feet across with a largemouth. And I've even seen areas, the St. Lawrence River has it. You'll see, I call them community beds. They're areas that are probably half the size of this room, and they're actually worn down into that black bottom, that silt, and all those little sticks and leaves and branches and everything. They actually have an edge on them that can be 15, 18 inches. And they've swept all this stuff out in the area. Like I say, it could be half the size of the room, and there might be a dozen bass spawning in this thing. It's really, really cool to see. You don't get to see it too often. You'll see the holes with the beds in them, but to pull up on one and go, "Oh my God," and you see all the bass, it's really something to see.
That's wild.
It's cool, yeah.
So there you go with the crappie. Of course, pike. I know Manny's really looking forward to pike, and that opener's right around the corner. There's lots right around the corner, and everybody's chomping at the bit. But Steve has mentioned that we are going to have quite a few edits for Trout Tuesday, so that's awesome. Hopefully, we'll see some brown trout, as Jim mentioned. Just Fishing Magazine, is it available now, Jim?
It's live.
It's live, baby. So as Steve has mentioned, make sure to get your free Just Fishing Magazine.
Sure.
That's the link in which you can go to find it.
There's our buddy on the cover.
Wow.
I sent him a note, told him to get a room.
You can afford one now, that's for sure.
Yeah, life has changed for him. That's really good. Hey, you know what I mentioned about getting out and trying to tidy up the garage?
Mhm.
I was going through some of the stuff, and I brought the little box that I brought to do seminars at the Toronto Sportsman Show. And I was talking to Brad there, our buddy from POW Castings,
Mhm.
and he had given me this little bag. He had just started making net heads, and boy, he's got Gamakatsu hooks in them.
Yeah.
And look at some of them. Nice. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's just a beauty.
Some
Absolute
smooth
beauty. So he's probably gonna be pouring my jig heads for me.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Nice.
talking to Bill the other day, and Bill's got about 300 pounds of lead left, and he said when I use that up, I'm done. So I said, well, I'll send you over hooks and pour until it's gone, and I'll move over to Brad and add a little bit to him, and it's nice to see him doing it trying to make a living at it.
Yeah.
And plus, he's supporting CFN now, so I'm like that. I like to give stuff back. It's the way it works, eh?
It is, Jim, and thanks for showing that to us and illustrating that, because it is just that easy. And trust me, I know others get it as well. We get lots of great feedback, whether it's our various resorts or our tackle producers. There's always somebody buying something, so we appreciate when you do. It means the absolute world to those who are supporting us and those who have these products, because what Jim is doing is exactly what we're hoping you're all doing. So if you're interested in going over to POW Castings, that's his link. Say hi to Brad. Take a look at the incredible amount of stuff that he has available, whether it be terminal tackle or some custom stuff. There's
Yeah, he had some really nice jig heads up there. I assume that they're fishing for fishing in the Detroit River for walleyes. Had some awesome colors on them too. And man, I'm gonna look at having some of those colors reproduced on some of my heads behind me for tying. I'm working on a big order for Fishing World still. I haven't proceeded with that as far as I thought I would have by now. Today was if you were Big Jim, today was just a lost day.
uh-huh.
Like
Yep.
I had a list of things to do. I was up early. I went out. I got gas. I got a coffee. Went and sat in it. Ate an egg McMuffin down by the river. Watched the eagles harassing the ducks.
Mm-hmm.
There's some fish ducks down there, so I don't know what they are, but they come up to the top and they've caught little minnows and stuff, I guess. And the eagles actually harass them into dropping them, and then you see the eagles picking them up. But they're so small you can't even see them pick them up.
Wow.
Like that, like it's a long way away.
Mm-hmm.
But the eagle looks like this big, and the duck looks like this. I don't know why they just don't eat the duck. I like ducks, So I'm sitting down the back the other night fishing here, and it's just beautiful. It's about 10 to 8. And I'm sitting there, and I look off, and I see, oh, here comes something across the bay, and it's an osprey, and he's carrying a fish,
Mm-hmm.
and he flies right over top of me, and I swear that he went like this and went, ha, ha, ha. He made this funny sound. He made this funny sound, and he was carrying a pike probably about 14 inches long. You could see it in both his talons. He had it in both of them, and he was carrying it because the nest is, I can see the nest out the window here behind me. You can see the windows.
Yeah.
Just past the trees. They're up on a pole there. So when they get yakking, once the open window season's here, oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't, it's just wild. Like, when it starts getting light at 4:30, 4:15 and that, they're up half an hour before that, and you're up right when they get up. The whole neighborhood is.
It really is. You look forward to spring, not so much the the wind instruments that are going on outside, because we have the same branches right close to our window, so it almost becomes guess that bird in 3 notes.
Down in the back, the way the balcony's over the back door here, Scotty?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a picture before next week. There's 7 or 8 robin's nests.
Jeez.
They're this far apart. And they just sit there and look at each other and do this all day. And there's no babies yet. We haven't seen any eggshells on the ground or anything. So they haven't hatched, but it used to be 1 or 2, then it got 3, and now there's either 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, oh my Lord, and that's like from my window down, it's like 15 feet as the crow flies.
Yeah.
So there won't be much sleep here. Hope they feed them well before they put them to bed. Here, Junior, have another snack.
Exactly. So there you go. You're dealing with birds out west. They're still dealing with snow and ice. As our buddy Bill Landry has shown, it is disappearing. But it is taking its sweet arse time to leave. And for all of you who are still enjoying the hard water, love to see some of those picks. What were you fishing for this week? I know, Jeremy, you have a great recipe for smelt that we're going to get to at some point this week. Jim, you eaten a lot of smelt in your day?
I'm not fussy about them. I don't know. I could sort of put them in the same bucket as whitefish. I just never developed a taste for whitefish. I don't know why. Like, I can eat it.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of other things that I would rather have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whenever, for some reason, whenever I get it, it tastes like you caught it and said, okay, close your eyes, and took the skin off and sit here, have a bite of this. Yeah, you got oil dripping down your, I don't know. They're not my bag.
Oh, that's too funny.
I always bug Will Wegman about that. He talks about soaking them in milk and salt and all kinds of stuff. I said, well, why don't you just catch a fish that you can just eat? He talks about soaking them, and I say, and then you keep them in a little bucket in the milk. He goes, yeah. And I said, it's perfect in the morning. When they're soaked, you just go over to the garbage can and just dump them in. It's perfect. It's all good.
There you go, pointing out the obvious again, Jim. Smelt runs are not like they used to be, not near as good as Mike Howard. No, I hear you, absolutely.
Now, the runs aren't as good, Mike, or the fish aren't as good?
That's a good question. I would imagine it's the abundance of them.
Yeah.
We aren't seeing as many of them run as we used to. I know, folks on Lake Simcoe, you'll say that because you're living it. Jim, you might have an adipose fin allergy. Well, I think you've got something in common with you.
Oh, speaking of scientists, guess who I spoke with the other day? He's resurfaced, Mr. Tufts, Dr. Bruce Tufts.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're going to get him on. He's been working on his book and doing a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, he apologized for not getting back to me. And I said, well, I know you took a year off to get your head straight and write your book and do everything, whatever else. And I guess he just ran into some tough times. Yeah, like family members dying one after the other and stuff like that. And some people, it bothers them more. And Bruce is a salt of the earth guy. Eh?
Yeah.
Like, he is just a wonderful person. Like, when he drops in here after he launches and fishes, and he'll come out at 5 o'clock or whatever and drop in, we'll sit here for 2 hours in the living room and talk. Like, I don't know. We're just like this.
Yeah.
He always tells me I should have been a scientist. That's what he says to me.
Well,
because the way I think.
You've done enough research, I will say that.
Yeah, well.
You've done lots of creel samples.
I know back in the beginning, the best ever was the day with him when we saw the fish, and I told him you can't catch those ones. We're fishing in the tournament. Tom Brooks said, hey, can you fill in and fish the tournament with Bruce Tufts? I said, yeah, sure. Where? It was on Balsam Lake. I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So we went and fished it. We weren't doing well. And I said, let's just go right off track and do something different here. So we did. And I started looking in these little canals and stuff, looking for some. And we're going along, and I see these fish. And they're swimming along, and they're probably about 10 feet ahead of me. And Bruce goes, oh, look. I said, yeah, there's 4 of them. He goes, yeah, they're all huge. And they were like 3.5 to 4.5 pounds probably. I said, yeah, you can't catch them. And he goes, why? Is this a sanctuary? And like, he's confused, eh? And I said to him, no, they got the guilty look. He says, what do you mean a guilty look? And I said, well, I can tell the look of the fish if I can catch it. And being a scientist, he looks at me and goes, come on now.
Yeah.
Like this. And I said, Bruce, did you see me cast at them? And he looked at me and he picked up a rod, threw it, and it landed about probably 6 feet past the fish the way they were going. And they just went like this around it, went back in, and then put in maybe another 10 feet between us and them. He did it again, and then they did the same thing. And he looked at me and he said, that's amazing. I said, well, that's just the powers of observation. How many hours have I spent at the front of a boat watching fish? So we go down to the end of the canal. It's at the top of the lock, and we're coming back up the other side. And I did catch a good fish out of a tree. I didn't see him. I said to him, do you see a fish in there? And he's looking and looking. And I said, no. And I said, I'm going to teach you a lesson. I said, don't either. Swear on my mother's grave. And I threw a jig in and caught like a 3-pounder. we couldn't see him, crystal clear water. We couldn't see it, but the fish was there, So you don't always get to see them. So then we go a little bit further, and there's these guys up ahead coming toward us now. There's a little bit of a bend, and they come around this little bit of a bend, and they're sort of looking at us. Then they see these fish that Bruce had seen, the ones that you couldn't catch, eh? And they're sort of coming out to the middle of the canal, trying to block it, like they're trying to fence us off, thinking they've got these fish. And the guy makes a few casts, eh? And Bruce says to him, "Oh, did you see them too?" And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, you saw those?" And Bruce says, "Yeah, they got the guilty look. You can't catch them." That was one of the best days of my life. A world-renowned scientist commenting on the guilty look. It was just amazing. And we did terrible.
I can't wait to use that story against Bruce, because I know he's probably studied in some of the best educational places in Canada, but no better than at Sealy's Bay.
When him and I fish together, the way I always say, the best way, it's really easy to learn with your ears, not your mouth. When I'm with him in the boat, it's my eyes. He's not the best fisherman. He never will be. It's just what it is. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you one thing: when you watch him and then you listen to what he says as he's fishing, he understands the fish, and that's the big deal, eh?
It is something to see.
He's come close a couple of times in the Canadian Open.
Is that right, eh? Wow.
Yeah. Been in the top 10, where a better catch one day, you could have been right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so wild.
He knows what's going on. He's a great guy, but we'll get him on to talk about bait fuel.
Yes,
he
yes.
brought it up right away, and apologized and everything. I said, Bruce, it's what it is, buddy.
Yeah.
It's what it is, buddy.
Well, listen, in the meantime, if anyone hasn't seen this, and thanks so much for Steve, who's making it here today and posting links. As I said, for anybody who is looking for their copy of Just Fishing, make sure you go to this link and get it, because it is now officially hot off the presses available.
Yeah, no more presses though, eh?
No more presses. No, it's all electronic.
Yeah, we had a few schlemazzles at the end, eh?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Just technical stuff, eh?
Yep.
Technical stuff that even rattled the guys that I'm like this to.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
But
well, we're glad it's up and running.
Yeah. Oh, it's there, and it's a beauty.
Right on. Well, Jim, as always, dude, thanks so much for joining us each and every Monday. It means the world to us to see you with a smile, see you with a good story, and hear that you're out fishing, man. That's awesome.
And I still have all my fingers from cutting tubes.
There you go. Right on, buddy. Well, you have yourself a great week, man.
Be good, kiddies. Be safe.
Great seeing you.
You too.
We will have Lawrence Gunther right after a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence Gunther in the house.
How you doing, buddy?
Well, never as good as you, but I keep trying, Lawrence.
Oh,
How was your
flatter
weekend?
Me.
You know what? It's just nice to be able to see you and hear you all in the same night.
I had to replace a whole bunch of components in the last 3 days on my computer. Things just die, but it's back together again. It's back.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we're glad to hear that. As I said, you have probably been racking up with all kinds of bullet points when it comes to the news, because it's been two. And for all those who are still suffering from that ice storm out in the Ottawa area, Lawrence is living it, and I'm sure there's others that are too. So our thoughts are with you. Hope everything works out okay for you, but I know you guys got slammed pretty hard. So
we did, yeah. But we got some news for sure, buddy. And, let's just start off with your little self promotion.
Right on.
And it's not really self promotion, because this is Carrie Kennedy from Trout Unlimited in Niagara Falls is working on this program, Bring Back the Brookies, and really she's documenting everything. So visit the Bring Back the Brookies, Trout Unlimited Canada, Niagara chapter, and you'll see step-by-step instructions on how to strengthen shoreline, right? And when it comes right down to it, I mean, we got rivers and creeks everywhere. We got trout. We've got a lot of things happening, in terms of weird weather patterns. What it comes down to, though, is if you don't take care of the land around the rivers, the fish in the rivers aren't going to be taken care of either. So, it's all about Earth Day, like celebrate Earth Day. We just had that Saturday. So, as anglers, we need to be paying attention to things like Earth Day and things that are going on the earth, and things that are going on around our rivers and all that stuff. It's all linked. It's all tied together.
Well, it is. And, the one thing that, when people start down that road of criticizing all of the work that was done to bring back the Atlantic salmon, and unfortunately, it didn't bring many recruitments back. Some would suggest it was a failed program. I, on the other hand, say it was successful. It may not have been successful when it comes to the Atlantics, but what it did for all the other species, all that river re-enhancement, the restoration of the habitat,
dam removal,
recognizing water flows that were too extreme, making sure we had enough trees to keep the water cool. Like all of that came from that initiative. And so again, it may not be successful in terms of the numbers, but the residual effects that it had on the other fisheries, I don't know how anybody could say that's a failure, because it was they hit it out of the park when it came to cleaning up river sheds.
Oh yeah, we learn from our failures, right? We celebrate our successes. We learn from our failures, just like the Starship launch. Elon Musk's Starship launch on last week. I mean, yeah, that thing only got 40 kilometers off the ground, but it's the biggest rocket ship ever, and it actually got off the ground. So he's going to learn from that, and just like he did with his earlier rockets, three failures in a row, he'll figure it out.
Well, it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I was watching I think it was the Weather Network, maybe, I don't know, CP24, and they were showing this rocket ship that obviously went astray and blew up.
Yeah.
And I had to do a double take, because I'm like, wait a minute, you're considering that a successful launch? And then when you hear the background story that you just provided, then you got to see, okay, that's why it's successful. So
130 meter tall rocket ship, biggest rocket ship ever built, 33 booster engines. The thing's a giant. It's like an apartment building lifting off the ground, right? Just to get it off the ground. The entire cement slab, the launch pad was completely destroyed by the rockets. They're going to have to re-engineer that one. But the thing got off the ground. Yeah, the separation of the booster pack from the main rocket ship didn't go as planned. But this whole thing is going to be all reusable, 100% reusable down the road. So, we learn from our mistakes. We figure things out. And just like, Carrie Kennedy and her shoreline restoration, she's figuring out, how to plant trees, what kind of trees to plant, what kind of trees are going to get gobbled up by deer and rabbit, and how do you stop that? But there's ways of doing it. And you try, you observe, you adjust, and then you try something new, right? And that's what she's doing, and she's documenting that whole thing. So it is possible, for people who care, like Trout Unlimited volunteers, they're about the trout, they're about the fishing. It's a fantastic organization for sure, and we can learn a lot from their hard work.
That's awesome. And we are seeing lots of groups along the north shores of Lake Ontario, usually accompanying a tributary, that are doing some cage culture. They're doing, riverside cleanup. They're doing a whole bunch of great, cool things. So yeah, we will do our very best to make sure that we bring those initiatives and that stuff to light, because as I said, we're not doing enough to pump the tires to get folks educated to do the same. So you know what, that's on us, and we're going to definitely do a better job. Thanks for that, Lawrence.
Yeah. So here's something, it's not just on the shores, but they just discovered a new species of fish, the deepest fish they ever found in the ocean. It was a Japanese and Western Australia scientists. They found this fish 8 kilometers below the surface of the ocean, and they actually managed to bring it up. Like when you bring a fish like that up from that far down, normally when it comes up, it's just gook, right? It just blows up into gook because the pressure is taken off, and the whole thing just self-destructs. They had to put it inside a pressurized vessel that would maintain that level of atmospheric pressure underwater. So when the fish came to the surface, it didn't just expand and blow up. So this is the kind of research that's going on. We're finding out things that are still happening that we don't even know about way down in the depths of the ocean. And we're talking about Mars and the moon, and we know more about the Mars than we do what's going on in the bottom of our oceans.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because not just to get back or digress too far away from this story, but your last story about the rockets, that's what this is designed to do, is to carry folks to Mars, to carry folks to the moon. So yeah, technology is an incredible thing, and it's great to see us advancing, because as I said, I think it was Elon Musk I was listening to, he had a podcast, and he was not that proud of what we had accomplished lately, because he said, I mean, we went to the moon in the 60s.
50 years ago.
Like, we haven't really done much since. Yes,
No.
we sent an unmanned rocket to go explore Mars, but like there's a lot of time between the moon and Mars. So I think he was kind of calling on the human race to, pull up your socks and get to her. What are some of the other topics you have?
So tech industries out in British Columbia and eastern the west slopes of Alberta. This is a giant coal mining company that operates in the Rocky Mountains there. They knock the tops off mountains, they scoop them out, and they contaminate often, around those mountains, so the creeks and so on. And it was selenium. So tech industry is, it's trying to get out of coal, they say, and they've been creating these water purification plants because the selenium levels are like 360 times higher than they should be that are going into these creeks. They've spent $1.2 billion on water purification, and they still aren't getting it. So, sometimes you need to put the science first and not after. And this is an example of that, where they've taken their profits, they've harvested their coal, and they're dealing with residual contamination issues that, are going through all these Rocky Mountains creeks into the rivers, flowing down into the United States. The Americans are getting so pissed off with us about this, because we're contaminating their rivers with these coal mining projects. It's problematic. And I'll just jump into the next news story here right away as well. So at tailings ponds in Alberta, we're finding out that there are 2 releases just happened there, and now there's contaminations going into nearby creeks and rivers. In effect, they're finding these contamination levels in trouts. The tailings ponds in the tar sands project are the size of the city of Vancouver, and they have not shrunk. They just getting bigger and bigger, and we don't know what to do with them. But we know that if ducks land on them, they'll die. Any birds land on these tailings ponds, die. So they have cannons and radar that set. Anytime a bird comes close to these tailings ponds, they get picked up by radar. Cannons start shooting off blanks to scare them away. And yet, birds still land, sometimes 200, sometimes 50. I think the large numbers are about 600, but it keeps happening. Yeah, so, that's an indicator. I talk about a canary in the cave, but here's another example of, putting the economy first, for great jobs, necessary resources, but not sorting out the science, right? In terms of what do you do with all this contaminated water? So what this water is they need to take about 8 barrels of water to drive it into steam, to smelt the oil, the tar out of the sand so that it rises to the surface. And then you got sand, you got water, and you got the oil at the surface. And then they can skim that oil off, the bitumen, but the water between the sand and the surface oil is now contaminated with all these other sort of chemicals, these byproducts of the evaporation product. They try to reuse some of this water now, but it takes about 8 barrels of water to make 1 barrel of oil. And then they try to reuse it a little bit, but all that contaminated water ends up into these giant holding ponds, these tailings ponds. And that's what we're making. We're making 8 barrels of contaminated water for every gallon of oil out there in Alberta. So there's a couple.
Sounds like we're making a mess. It sounds like we're making a mess.
A giant mess. And we have no way of figuring out how to clean this up. Just like the tech industries, they don't know how to clean their messes up. with the selenium, and we don't know how to clean up these tailings ponds. Two, great jobs, needed money, but the science was brought in, probably too late.
Yeah. And to Steve's point, yes, reclamation needs to be planned first. I think when it's on a small scale, I think it's a lot easier to do that. With these oil sands, I don't know how anybody could have possibly seen what this was going to look like after it got started. And from what I gather, we're nowhere near being done. So it just goes to it goes to a point. Are we ever going to clean these up, or are we ever going to be done with them?
And who's going to pay for that bill? Because those industries will be gone.
This is it exactly. Because let's keep in mind, our country has made this proclamation that we're going to be out of using fossil fuels, I believe, in 2050 completely. We are going to start to see signs of us drawing back and pulling back from the need and the use of it in 2030, but we're going to be outright done with them in 2050.
Soon enough. And, we'll still be using oil for making things like plastic and things like that, but, we won't need it that much. Here's a good news chemical story. So they're gonna let some lampricide go, some TFM. It's a chemical that they know can kill off the baby sea lamprey in the spawning rivers, and they're using this now in the Lake Huron because when the lamprey go into the rivers to spawn, they put in this TFM chemical. It's not toxic to humans. It doesn't bioaccumulate in the tissue of fish. It decomposes, it breaks down into organic, non-toxic components. And to find this chemical, over 6,000 different chemicals were tested in 1957 to determine that this was the proper one to use. And because of that, we've managed to knock back the sea lamprey population by over 90%. We spent about $20 million a year doing it with this chemical, but no ill effects to the rest of the environment through this process. Now, there's a great science story.
That is a great science story. And just when you thought we weren't doing enough, again, we see lamprey marks on some of our sport fish that are coming out of the Great Lakes. And I think it's inevitable. But to think that if this work wasn't being done behind the scenes, and in a lot of cases out of sight, out of mind, how bad could the lamprey problem be without some of these deterrents and some of these initiatives? Can you imagine?
We were there. We were there in the 1960s. We had dead lakes and lake trout populations, Atlantic salmon, and it just disappeared. And the sea lamprey ruled, and we beat them back.
Well, that is a good news story. A couple questions that came out of the last story. Jeremy's asking what kind of contaminants are found in these sands. Maybe there could be a use for some of the contaminants in other applications and other products.
It's the detergents, it's the cleaners, it's the chemicals that are being added to the water to speed up the separation process. Yeah. So it's all proprietary. It's industrial secrets. Each oil company has its own specific cocktail. They're not going to share their recipe with their competitors. So really, unless you're someone on the inside of government that knows what's going on, you won't know. No,
100%. Yeah, and it's a tough one to call. And of course, we have those contaminants as well as the fact that we're still using coal. I think it was blurted out to me just recently that we're using more coal now than we've ever used, which to me is shocking. To say the least.
Yeah. And it's not even, it's coal that's kind of pretty nasty, but there's a lot of coal industry. Like if you look in the United States now, to generate electricity using coal is probably the most expensive way to generate electricity now. And the cheapest way to generate electricity now is with solar and wind. It's the cheapest way to generate electricity.
It is. I don't know. Some would argue that it's not the most efficient when it comes to making power. That yes, windmill is about as clean as it gets, but
you need the infrastructure. You need to find ways to move it around, because instead of having one giant factory and then just pumping the electricity out over a giant wire to the city, you have to have many wires running everywhere, because you have to put these windmills in solar farms here and there and everywhere, right?
100%. So, at the end of the day, it's work in progress. We'll get it at some point, and we need to get it soon because, as we just said, unfortunately, these promises have been made sort of out of our control. I just want to, like, if we're going to do it, let's hold our people in power to it. They've made this proclamation. I'm not sure how we're going to arrive there, but you know what? We're going to have a cleaner planet hopefully by the end of it. So I'm all for it. I just don't know how we're going to do it.
In the meantime, there's scientists up in Alaska and up in the Arctic that are noticing that as glaciers are melting, new rivers are opening up. And if you what do they say? If you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Fish are showing up, man. Like new salmon runs into these never before, existed rivers that are now developing from these melting glaciers are being inhabited by spawning salmon that are going up into these rivers and spawning in these pristine, never before seen, spawning beds.
That's
so
great.
It's not always, nature has a funny way of, just working around us, right? It can. And it does. It'll. Nature will out exist us probably for sure. Has many times in the past.
Yeah.
But and we're seeing signs of it again.
100%. Please continue.
Fright of the lifetime. My buddy Chris Harvey Clark. He just had his article published in Canadian Geographic magazine of being chased around off the coast of Nova Scotia last fall by a 15-foot great white shark that kept cruising by him for 4 times. Now listen to this. He's down 120 feet on the bottom looking for rays because he does ray research. He's got a military buddy with him filming everything. He sees the shark go by once. So he tells his buddy, they swim very close to the bottom over to the anchor rope. But between the bottom and the boat at the other end of the anchor rope, there's about 30 feet of murky water near the surface. So as they're going up the anchor rope as fast as they can, they don't stop for their safety check, and when you're coming up from 100 feet down, you need to make a few safety checks, but they just blew right through them. That means the potential of the bends, right? So they just shot right in. He said, but the scariest part, he said, after seeing that shark cruise by them for the 3rd time, and then they had to go into that murky water before they got to the surface. And in that murky water, you don't see it coming, buddy. You're, trust me, when you're blind and you don't see it coming, that can scare them. Oh yeah. So they got to the back of the boat. Chris helped his buddy with his double tanks and his camera equipment get up the ladder and into the boat while he's just in at the back of the boat with half his body still in the water, thinking, "This is it. I'm gonna get nailed." I tell you, PTSD, man. Chris is still has nightmares about this.
Well, I think some of us aren't going to sleep tonight after hearing this story. There's a guy at work that we're constantly sharing stories about sharks and some of the footage that's out there right now. And I have to say, when you're standing on the bottom looking up at a boat and something swims by you that has teeth, whether you know it or not, and it's bigger than the boat. I don't know about you, man, but I'm not keeping it contained, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm going to be going home to get another pair of pants because it's like, there's.
And at some point, these great whites, they stop eating fish because it's just not doing it for them. And they want those big, blubbery, warm-blooded mammal meals.
Well, I tell you, there's enough of them out there.
Oh, yeah.
Enough seals, enough sea lions. Like, there's a whole smorgasbord of swimming Scotties running around that will definitely do what they need to do for their diet. But I'm interested to know if they always been there, because keep in mind
they were.
Have they always been there? We just haven't noticed them.
No. What happened is we called the seals for decades because starting in the 1950s, cod fishermen started saying, "Hey, the seals are eating the cod. So we got to kill the seals." So government started paying them $10 a head for calling seals. And so we knocked the seal population almost down to nothing. So we took the food base out of the ecosystem, and the great whites left because their food was no longer there. So now we had no great whites, no seals, and just full-on access to the prey by humans. And we sucked up the rest of them, and the cod stock collapsed in 1992. It was shut down, and not long after, the call was taken off the seals because, well, there's no seals, there's no cod. Why are we still paying people to go and shoot seals for no reason?
Yeah.
Well, the cod have slowly come back. The seal populations have come back with abandon because they have no predators. So their populations exploded. 8 million here, 100,000 there, 2 million there. The numbers just extraordinary. And you would hear these reports of fishermen out in their boats, and they would just see a school of seals or a pod of seals swim by them from one coast to another, crossing 200 miles of ocean with abandon. Just 1,000 of them, just, cruising along. They had nothing in the world to be afraid of. Well, you know what? The great whites started sniffing them out, and they're back, and now they know where these seals live. And my buddy says these large pods of seals they're on the shore, and they're afraid to come into the ocean, and they're all looking a little bit skinny.
Well, so that's all I have to do to lose weight. Go swim out in the Atlantic Ocean. Got it. All right.
Yeah, go swimming with seal friends. If you're going out to vacation in Atlantic Canada, before you go swimming in the beach, you make sure there are no resident seal populations nearby. Because if there's resident seal populations on the shore anywhere within a few miles of you, there's going to be great white sharks cruising the shoreline. They keep them pinned on the shore pretty tight. They keep them pinned in the river mouths. The river mouths are the funnel points. They know that's a great place to ambush them as well. So before you go setting out for, some fun in the sun and swimming in the surf, make sure you're well far away from the seal populations.
I'm out. That's good. That's all I need. I'm out. Yep. No swimming in the Atlantic. Got it.
There you go,
What else have you got for us tonight, Lawrence?
That's it for the news for now, but I just finished a couple interviews. One in talking about lead production. I started talking to this Wolf Lake Association conservationist. She's been doing a lot of walleye spawning bed restoration. We were talking about bridges and culverts and things like that are perched. Jason called them perched. They're too high out of the water, and they've been paying for replacing culverts under roads and so on. And just bringing back the quality of the walleye fishing in Wolf Lake and putting a lot of money and effort into this. And then she also started this project called Get Out of the Lead. And they've been paying anglers, giving them $10 coupons if they come in and turn in their lead sinkers. And they've had a tremendous success in getting local anglers to bring in their lead sinkers and jigs. And many of them don't even ask for the coupons. They don't want the coupons. They're just happy to find a place to unload this old lead fishing tackle that they don't want, that they know it's not going to get melted down and turned into more fishing tackle or put into the ground or somewhere where it's going to cause problems. It's going to be taken care of properly. And this movement of moving away from lead fishing tackle, it's slowly happening. But my God, what a controversial topic. Like something as insignificant as a lead sinker, a lead jig, the cheapest piece of tackle you can buy in your tackle box can raise the ire of anglers and can fire up environmentalists who just see this as this is the nail that's going to put the coffin in recreational angling once and for all, right? So you got these two sides that can really dig in on lead fishing tackle. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, nothing seems to be safe, lead or anything else for that matter. You're right. If you have an audience, chances are you're going to have a willful ear to listen. But yes, absolutely. We're not getting rid of lead just yet. There's definitely incentives to do so, but the entire fishing industry is still using it. So
there is, and there's companies that are doing often all sorts of alternatives, tungsten and brome and tin, and there's all sorts of cheap alternatives and effective alternatives and better alternatives. And it's up to us anglers to explore those before some bureaucrat, some ivory tower comes up with some policy that just makes no sense, right? So it's better, I think, that we figure this out and we, what makes sense in this situation, knowing what we know, knowing what science is telling us about, loon mortality and birds of prey mortality that are eating dead loons. and how that all happened. So, I think in the end we can become dogmatic and dig in our heels, or we can look at the science and say, well, maybe in this situation this makes more sense. And so I'm going to put a little editorial together. It'll be out in the Bluefish News next Monday, where we just talk about some of that common sense and some of the science. And
it would be
some
cool.
suggestions.
It would be cool, Lawrence, and only because we're having some suggestions come up here. Mark has said, is there a bismuth sinker? I do believe they exist, Mark. I don't know what they cost, but that is the biggest problem, because even tungsten, you want your sinkers made out of tungsten, they're going to be expensive. And some of the stuff that we've been seeing, some of our folks who love catfishing and sucker fishing, to try and get those weights to that size, it's not going to be economical anymore. Yes, you're going to do great things for the environment, but yeah, it's not going to be cheap.
No, it's not going to be cheap. But are loons swallowing 5-ounce lead weights at the end of your carp rig or your catfish rig? I don't think so. Right? Those things break off. They hit the bottom. They bury themselves instantly.
100%.
Yeah, it's the little things. It's the little things that they mistake for gravel, and they swallow to add to their gizzard to grind up the plant material. But unfortunately, they think it's gravel. They throw it. They swallow it, add it to their gizzard, to their little rock collection in their gizzard. That's where the plant material goes. First stage, digestion. Because they don't chew it up with their teeth. They swallow it in the gizzard. All those little pebbles grind it into something that they can then digest in their stomach. But in that process, those little lead sinkers or little lead jigs get ground up by the gravel. And now you've got a emulsified liquid lead that just gets infused into the bloodstream of the loon. And lead tackle is responsible for about 47% of loon mortality.
47%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's high. Well, it may not have been a great news story, Lawrence, but it was lots of great news that we need to know. And as always, dude, you keep us on top of things, and we really appreciate you digging deep into some of these topics so that we can get all the finer details and become knowledgeable. Because, yeah, sure. I'm sure if anybody were to put their hand up, if asked the question, would you like to use a safer alternative than lead? Yeah, I think we'd probably all agree, but unfortunately, we're just not there. I am excited, though, with some of our Canadian tackle companies that are very, very close to pouring tungsten. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. But until then, yeah, use a smart alternative, an efficient alternative, and one you can afford, and until a better one's made.
Oh, tin split shot. You can get it at Eagle Claw. And how much split shot do you need to take a bunch of kids fishing? Right? It's so tiny. Who cares if it's a tiny bit bigger than a piece of lead split shot? At least 100%. It's not going to hurt anybody.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, as always, Lawrence, thanks so much. It's great having you back in full capacity. And as always, we look forward to hearing from you every Monday.
Thanks, buddy. Good to be back.
Right on. All right. Well, we're going to have Jay Barnucz come up just after a word from his sponsor. Thanks again, Lawrence.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Jay Barnucz.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing, my friend?
I just got back from fishing. It's not even
lucky dog. Again, someone else we can live vicariously through.
We've actually today was kind of fun. Trevor is part of a new outdoors club at the high school, and they decided on Friday they would have a meeting on Monday after school. So I took them to the fish ladder in town, and only a couple kids came, but it's only like 6 kids right now. So like two or three showed up, and their teacher. And I had a couple of the good members of the Big Creek Anglers walk the kids through the fish ladder, how it works. No fish were there because that's another story. But yeah, so I think we're going to have a group of volunteers helping us lift some fish this fall. So,
cool.
Yeah, so that's great. So of course, leave it to my son to be the ringleader for the new Delhi District Outdoors Club at the high school, but that's great. I think the reason why we had a low turnout tonight too was tomorrow's turkey opener. So
Yeah.
a lot of kids are getting ready to go turkey hunting. I know that. So it's great.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome. Great hearing these initiatives are having folks from our next generation of who we hope are going to be the saviors and keep this all going. So it's awesome that that's being done.
Like literally, dude, I almost had I just literally took my waders off. I'm not even joking. Like I just literally I'm still wearing my liner for my wading jacket. A little cool out there.
Wow. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
and
man.
that's the thing. If you are a steelheader, though, this is your weather.
Well, it's funny you say that, Scotty. This weekend was kind of a unique weekend for opener of trout. I'm not going to say I fished a whole lot. I might have watched more baseball and hockey than I fished on Saturday. Dude, it was like biblical rains Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But we did some fishing. I caught a few small rainbows. Trevor got a couple nice browns. But yeah, it was an absolutely miserable weekend. And what's amazing is talking to a lot of guys, and this is kind of what I figured, this warm winter, our major runs came through February and March. And all that rain we got 2 weeks ago, a lot of our Lake Erie steelhead anyways, they've head back. They're gone. Catch numbers have been way down. My buddy did catch 2 today when I was in the park here in town, like 2 drop back females. But yeah, it's a different kind of trout opener, very different. So
Interesting.
That's how it goes. Yeah,
and yeah, with that, you're 100%. I couldn't believe how much rain we got on Saturday.
Oh,
it's unbelievable.
Well, and I have a story about that, Scotty. And I don't know if you want. I hate to be bad news guy, but I'm gonna post a link in the chat.
Absolutely.
And I think Big Brother hears me complaining about all the rain, and the Weather Network. This popped up. And we're headed for record water levels in the Great Lakes. Remember in 2020, we had like Lake Ontario was flooding and things like that.
Yep.
And if the rain keeps coming this spring and the snow melt happens up in Lake Superior, they're predicting that we might see close to record water levels in the Great Lakes again this spring.
And when you hear that, of course, we think, well, it's cyclical, that's just nature. And is it that natural for us to have those high waters that close together?
Well, you know what? The thing about, so I'm not going to get into a debate about climate change, but I'm going to tell you, records are being more broken more often. Is that okay to say that? Like, definitely things are happening. And so I do think that, I think that things are changing, be it from us or not from us, just it could be naturally, but definitely records are are being broken more often. So now what's good about high water levels? Well, in some cases it's good for the fish. Like there's more habitat for shallow fish to get access to, especially our warm water friends like largemouth bass and bowfin. But it also kind of messes up some of the walleye spawning a little bit. So because when those water levels are raging through some of these rivers, I think it messes up with their success of spawning. What do you think, Scotty, when you get these high flow events at the wrong times?
Well, and when you're dealing with walleye that primarily only breed in that kind of situation, if they're not shoal spawners, then flow definitely has a lot to do with it. And of course the success of that hatch. At the end of the day, you could have 2 mile an hour running water. But unless the eggs are able to settle and they can get fertilized, it could be 10 miles an hour. If you're achieving no success of fertilization, it's a no-brainer what kind of success you're going to have with your hatch. But with those influxes and changes in speed, I don't know that it has as much of to do with the success as it does temperature. I hate to say it, but us walleye lovers, we are so sensitive when it comes to temperature that I think has the biggest. But you get an influx of water flow, there's no doubt about it. That's going to lower your success rate when it comes to hatch. But No, and from what it sounds like, Jeremy's saying that their levels are finally coming down in the Muskoka area. That's interesting to hear. I would have figured it would be going the other way, Jeremy. So thanks for letting us know that.
Well, and Jeremy, that's what I heard. I did hear from friends who have cottages and properties up in the Muskoka areas how I heard about 2 feet over top of some of the docks. Like some of these are fixed docks. But, there's another. I just checked the weather forecast for Barrie because I don't like to look at just where I am. I like to try and look across Ontario. So up in the Barrie area, they're going to get about the same amount of rain between now and Sunday, something in the, 30 to 40 millimeter range or more. So, we still got lots of rain to come. So we'll see what happens. But, I think that, when the high water starts getting into property damage, that's where it gets tough. But, there's a lot of conspiracies out there about, the lakes themselves, right, Scotty? And they can be regulated or not. I think it's really hard to balance it out because if you take water from one area, you're adding it to somewhere else. Yep. And I think that is really hard to manage. I think more water is good for fish in the long run, but I think it is definitely a slippery slope to manage. What do you think?
I wouldn't want their job for all the tea in China because at the end of the day, you are forecasting and you're not forecasting tomorrow's weather. You're forecasting, well, what kind of rain are we going to have for the summer?
Yeah,
right. If you get that wrong, I wouldn't want to be standing beside that person because when you get it wrong, it's ugly.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because especially if you start modifying flows too much, like in the dams right now, and you don't get that prediction right, boy, you can really, really disappoint some people. Like it wasn't that long ago when Georgian Bay, like if you had a cottage on Georgian Bay, where your dock was literally 100 meters from the water, right? Yeah. And what incredible that we've been in this high water period for a few years now, and I hope it doesn't go back the other way. So
I hope not either. George makes a great point when it comes to walleye fishing. The success or failure of the annual walleye spawn is unpredictable. 100% agree. The best indication of how strong or weak the year class is going to be in the fall sampling. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that, George. But we've had some successful creel samples in the spring as well, which if you hit it at the right time, can sometimes be some of the best. I used to love that science. I didn't like the fact that we weren't allowing these fish to do their thing and they were caught in gill nets and what have you. But still, it was really cool to see the numbers of fish. Everybody says, "Wow, the fishing sucks," or "It's not that great." Well, okay, obviously maybe we're just not fishing at the right time because there's tons of them here.
I had a couple of colleagues of mine are doing some research, ongoing project on Stony Lake, similar to what's been going on in Lake Erie. They're looking at habitat use and different things. They're working with a couple of cottage associations up that way. So they went up recently, Scotty, to go try and collect walleye with electrofishing. And they had a poor time trying to find walleye. Now, this was probably a week ago when they were up there. And I said it might be a little too early for them yet because I can remember some of the walleye spawning, like not spawning until right around trout opener. And trout opener is a bit early this year. Let's be honest. April 1st was a Saturday. So trout opener is almost a week earlier than it typically is. Would you agree?
Yep.
So I think that the wall and a lot of it's driven by water temperature, from what I understand, and it might just be a little too early for them yet. So
it seems to be our weather that we have winter and then we have summer, at least where we are. I know the folks out west would argue, well, we still got winter. We're reminded of it every time we
I know.
Backyard. So we are in a rare area geographically than the rest of Canada that is experiencing this warm up. I would say traditionally year after year it gets warmer and warmer, and whether that's global warming, again, that's not what we're debating about. But yeah, no, you're 100% right that after a certain amount of time we don't have that spring anymore. It's just one into the other, and I'm glad with this year we have that buffer. There is spring. It reminded us what summer feels like, but was only for a couple days, and then the dose of reality sunk in.
Yeah. So Mike's saying still fresh fish coming up. So Mike, I don't disagree. I think I think this just demonstrates how different the Lake Erie steelhead run is from the Lake Ontario run. I think it's just very contrasting. And I'll tell you why I think that is. So, and I guess one of these nights, I should actually show some of the fish data from our fish ladder work, Scotty. But
Yes.
I'm working up some of the data. I've got some graphs that I'll show at some point. But what we found is last winter, so when we had ice fishing here in Southern Ontario, the main run, Scotty, came in March, and it kind of lasted till about middle of April was our big run. And then we had opener, and there was a lot of dropbacks around, right? Because they were still fish in the system. This year, the run basically started, the peak run started in February, and mid-March was the end of the peak. 2 weeks ago, we had a ton of rain, and no more fish came through the ladder. Like the ladder we were in there scooping, but there was nothing in the scoops, if you know what I'm saying. It was no fish.
Wow.
So that tells us right there that our fish here on Erie, at least in Big Creek here, they push through between mid-February and mid-March, and they're gone. Like they're not coming up anymore. So they've been in the majority of the fish. Always some fish do things different, but the majority of the fish entered the system in February around that time, at least the spring run. February left, or at least then they kept coming through into March. And then a month after we had high rains, and like literally 10 days ago, over a week period, we had almost 100 mils of rain down here. And I think those fish have moved on. But I don't disagree that in the Lake Ontario tribs, they just function differently. The Lake Ontario is at a different water temperature too. So it's a little bit different system. So that's interesting.
100%. And what I really am with all the rain that we did have, it's nice to see that the rivers are still cleaning up. They're still not as muddy as they were a couple weeks back to a month ago. A month ago, I was really getting concerned at how much mud I was seeing in these rivers. But, they are definitely cleaning up. So to your point, I think it was maybe not last week's show, but the week before, you said that sometimes those muddy events clean out our rivers.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're crystal clean out.
Yeah, I think it has. I think these high water events help to flush some of that silt out of the system that, that really doesn't get to move through during those low flow periods. And we had a lot of low flow periods last fall. So it'll be interesting to see, and we'll see how that trends. But what's neat though is in the last 2 years doing these fish lifts is really what we're seeing is when there's a cold winter, that run gets delayed. Makes sense, right? Cold, right through March. And then, so that run gets delayed to like March. But in a warm winter, those fish are coming through like end of January into mid-February at the same pace. It's pretty amazing those fish can do that. I even was talking with a good friend, Larry Halleck, who's a retired biologist and an active member in Trout Unlimited at the Middle Grand chapter. So that's like the Paris, Brantford area.
Yeah.
Get this. Their main run of fish for the Grand, for steelhead, comes up in September into early October. That's when they push through. And the reason being, and this is interesting, they have to get over the Caledonia Dam, Scotty. So the Caledonia Dam has two fishways, like there's ladders on both sides, but they don't function very well. So what's happening is those fish jump over the Caledonia Dam. They scale that dam. But once the water temperatures cool down to I think it's around into the 40s, like around 8 degrees Celsius, 7 degrees Celsius, the water's not warm enough for them to jump the dam. Their metabolism starts to drop. And so their big push of steelhead has to come in that September, October period. Isn't that something? So
that is really incredible.
But if those fish ladders work, could you imagine how many fish might be in the Grand River?
No kidding.
But they're not, because those fish ladders aren't functioning properly at Caledonia. Isn't that something?
It is, and troubling too. At the same token, that if we know we have a problem, we can't fix it. Is it the Grand River Conservation Authority that looks after those ladders?
No, it would be the Ministry of Natural Resources.
Okay.
So yeah. So George. We're not building a taller dam. You need to get off your adipose hate. His adipose hate is oozing through his comments.
Well, I will say this. I don't envy this when I see that. I mean, as much as I would love to be there, I would be there at the same time, because that's the only thing about creel samples for walleye that hurts. It's always in cold water.
So there's a question there from Sully. So does any fish ladders work well? That's a good question. So the two fish ladders I think of the most, well, actually the one I think of the most probably is the Ganaraska fish ladder. The Ganaraska fish ladder is located close to the lake. It's monitored with a camera. So it's pretty neat to see the fish come through, and you get a good idea of how many fish are successfully passing that ladder. So how many fish come up to it, how many fish are passing it. It has a pretty high passage rate. Whatever that number is, it's pretty high. And I say whatever that number is because that number varies year to year in terms of how many fish, but they're not getting stopped at that ladder. What I will say is, but fish ladders, it depends what species of fish you are, okay? Because salmonids, trout and salmon, they're able to leap up ladders. But there's other fish that are also migratory. So this time of year, walleye are migratory. So are northern pike. Muskellunge are migratory. There's a lot of fish that will swim up rivers looking for optimal spawning areas. And if there's barriers, they can't navigate it. There's a barrier on the Grand River. It is called, it'll come to me. Anyways, it's a barrier it's a low head barrier. It's designed to allow the passage of bass and pike and other species that can't leap like a traditional fish ladder. And it's called the Mannheim Weir. I knew I think of it, Mannheim Weir. And it was designed as a low passage barrier. So basically, fish that aren't able to leap can sort of go up a gentle slope as opposed to having to leap over steps. And it's so important. And this has been a big downfall of some places, Scotty, and this because of walleye populations, where the walleyes can't successfully reach the optimal spawning areas because they're not a jumping fish like rainbows or browns or brook trout, right? So
people have always asked me when it comes to walleye, why aren't we seeing the numbers of walleye like we did back in the 90s, 80s in the Kawartha Lakes? And it's not an easy question to answer because there's not one answer. There's several. Obviously, one of the most, I would say, if you don't realize it, perhaps because you're not there, one anomaly that has changed is when people open up their cottages. So boat traffic in a lot of our areas has drastically changed. May 24th, I do remember that's when the boat came out. You were in the water first. You might get a ski in, but you were fishing if you were doing anything on May 24th. But let's face it, jet skis are running a lot earlier in the year. Boat owners are running their boats a lot earlier in the year. And unfortunately, walleye fry, and I can't speak to all fry, but walleye fry exist in that 1 foot, that first foot of water. They're constantly in and out of the sunlight. They're constantly eating zooplankton. So that's right where our props and our jet washes are. So unfortunately, there is that drawback. Some will criticize how water is managed on the Kawarthas. I definitely being one of them. I think we need to look more at the science, or at least do more science or follow the science when it comes to that, because there has been several instances where I have been told and seen for myself spawning beds that were dry, that had no water running through them at all. So we have to get better at that. And then, of course, there's obviously other circumstances as well that spoke to the fact that you're not allowed to ice fish in the Kawarthas. They're closed fish. I mean, the science is doing what they can to bring them back. But I remember in Bob Cajun, you could smell the fish. You knew the fish were in the river because you could smell it all in town. I have never smelt that since the 90s anywhere in the Kawarthas, but that was always cool to know. Yeah, the walleye are running because you can smell them in the air.
Yeah, and actually, like Todd Nechtel jumped on here. I was actually fishing with Todd tonight, so welcome, Todd. He's at home. He's probably watching this on his phone and the Leafs game on the television. So,
there you go.
Todd, you can post the score update for me too. So, but Todd brings up a good point. So on Big Creek, it's an interesting note. So this time of year, and this question was posed to me. I don't have an answer for it, actually. It's kind of a neat question. So Delhi itself is about, let's say it's 50 kilometers from the lake, Scotty, like river miles from the lake, river kilometers. And about 15 kilometers south of Delhi, so about 30 kilometers from the lake, there's a lamprey barrier that is seasonal. They put it in the spring before the sea lamprey start to come in the rivers, right?
Interesting.
So what's interesting, really interesting, you're going to like this or maybe find this fascinating, is the reason why we see at the Fishway a pause in fish movement, because when they put the lamprey ladder in, or the lamprey barrier, because even though steelhead can, leap the lamprey barrier if they want to, we know that if water temperatures are cold, they won't very easily. So by putting that lamprey barrier in, if it goes in too early, are we halting the movement of steelhead or slowing them down?
Interesting.
I don't know. It's a good question. Todd brings it up, and it's one that I found very fascinating. But now that we're collecting fish ladder data, we're able to maybe look at past years of when they put that lamprey barrier in, to see if that coincided with changes in fish passage. We'll see.
Interesting. And yes, Mike, great point to respect for the land and the fishery. 100%. We that as a whole needs to improve, but not by anybody here per se. We're not speaking to you.
What is this all about? Someone's property? What happened?
Well, guessing will change after what happened on the weekend was total disrespect. I have no idea what this is talking about, but you hear a lot of that we need to be more respectful of folks going on.
It's challenging. Like that's one thing about trout opener. Like even the property where we fish, we're lucky to have friends who own this property.
Yeah,
they don't allow many other people there. The owners are just tired of people like trespassing and no one asking permission. And trout opener brings out the worst in people. It does. I hate to say that, but I think overall it's a wonderful weekend, and I see all these great pictures of family enjoying fishing, and it's like next to bass opener, it's probably my second favorite opening weekend. But these crazy things happen, right? So. Yeah, that's unfortunate, Mike. Like, truck destroyed freshly planted crop. I know that kind of stuff. Like, that kind of stuff we don't want. And then you got to wonder, God, it's so cliche, man. I've broken record, but why are anglers not allowed to do things, right? Yep. So, yeah.
Unfortunately,
is there a bypass for the lamprey barrier? No, Jay. So the lamprey barrier itself is a physical barrier. There's actually a lamprey trap on it, and fish are trapped, and then they actually, the sea lamprey control folks, they actually hire local contractors to check the ladder and to remove any lamprey that are caught. But it's not electrical. It's a physical barrier, not electrical at all. So.
Interesting stuff, as always. So, Jay, I have to say, with all of these species opening up, especially in your neck of the woods, does it become hard, or just there isn't enough days in the week to target all these fish?
There's not enough days in the week. There's, I kind of got in trouble this weekend because I've been neglecting my my husbandly duties here with the yard work and things like that. So I'm going to say, Scotty, I'm happy it's been cold and kind of miserable out because the grass isn't growing that fast. But I'm going to have to take a day or two off shortly from fishing and get to doing some yard work. And usually what I do is I won't lie, I usually have to dedicate a full weekend, get everything in shape, and then I don't have to do it. I don't have to work on it for weeks. But I haven't done that yet, so I keep putting it off. So I think I'm gonna have to start doing some work after some yard work and things after work to keep my fishing rods bent, if you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying, and as I said, I am so lucky to have folks like you and Trevor and the rest of you that I'm able to live vicariously through, because there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't get to this weekend, which means I'm going to have to do it this coming weekend, which takes away.
And it looks
from-
like it's going to rain. So if it rains, see, that's the beauty part about rain. If it rains, I can't do yard work, which means I have to go fishing. Scotty.
Yes.
So, you know, sorry, Heather, what can I do? I got to fish. If it's raining, I can't cut grass in the rain. So
until they find a way,
until they find a way. That's right.
We're all
So
safe.
yeah, no, well, you know what, man? But what's interesting though is that with these cooler temps, things have really kind of slowed down. The crappie bite's going to turn off for a bit. So we'll see, buddy. But what's nice is there's so many options available right now that if you are not a picky angler, there's lots to do right now. So I'm looking forward to it.
100%. Right on,
Yep.
Jay. Well, we look forward to that as well. Enjoy the game tonight and keep on keeping on, dude. We really appreciate your content and all of your positive comments along the way. It means the world, dude. Thanks again for another Monday.
My pleasure. Sorry for jumping on so late, but go Leafs, go Jays, and go CFN.
Right on, brother. All right, you take care. Have yourself a great week, my friend. We got Mike Consul coming on with an announcement right after this word from our sponsor.
Honoring past achievements as we step into the future. Elevate, innovate, reimagine. Make the best better. That's what we do. Radically redefined, the NRX Plus is the culmination of our obsessive drive to forge the most advanced fishing tools on the planet.
Mike Consul, how you doing, buddy?
Hello. Can you hear me all right, Scotty?
Perfect. Now, Mike, I wasn't 100% sure if you were going to come on today because I know you had said that perhaps maybe you were going to be busy. But do you have an update for us?
I do have an update. I'm going to share my screen. I'll be quick because, oh my gosh, the CFN Fish Off is going to another level in 2023. I'm excited, Scotty. You excited?
Dude, I'm excited from Friday's visit to Shimano to find out some of the stuff that our participants have a chance of taking home. This year especially is going to be a year that you want to participate if you want a good chance to take home some Shimano. What a prize pack Bob presented us on Friday. Incredible.
Not just one prize pack, not just two prize packs, but a multitude of different ways to participate and to win. So whether you're in Saskatchewan or Ontario, whether you only have one body of water or you're willing to travel, we try to make it so that whatever your experience level, whatever your time commitment, and whatever access to whatever body of water you have, there's a way for you to participate, and not just participate, a way for you to win.
That's awesome. Well, get right to it, my friend.
All right. So the CFN Fish Off is happening 6 weeks, Victoria Day to Canada Day weekend. So Victoria Day, that Saturday until the last Monday of Canada Day, a full 6 weeks, and we got prizes every single week. This is brand new. We usually have a 4-3-2-1 point system. The point system is out the window, and what we're going to do instead is if you catch 5 species, that will put you into our 5 species draw. And I know some provinces have a lot of access to species, some like Saskatchewan don't, but all you got to do is catch 5 species, and you will be in our awesome 5 species draw. Thank you to Shimano. Now, if you can catch 10 species, you will get 2 ballots into our 5 species draw, but you'll get 1 ballot into our 10 species draw. And our 10 species draw is bigger than our 5 species draw. Some of you might be able to catch 15 species, which will give you 3 ballots into our 5 species draw, 1 ballot into our 10 species draw, and 1 ballot into our 15 species draw. So catch as many species as possible, 8-inch minimum, but size other than meeting the minimum requirement does not matter. And let's say you catch 20 species, just do the math. That's that's 1 ballot into the 15 species draw, 4 ballots into 5 species draw, and 1 ballot into the 10 species draw. You could catch 30 species, 40 species. It just matters on your total amount, and then we'll put ballots according to your total number.
So at the end of the day, Mike, we've listened to our community. They wanted to be competitive. They wanted to be set aside if they were going to be like a Landry or like some of our teams in the past that were able to go out and get 30, 40 species, which to me is just an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah.
Like that, I wish we had a boat and a truck to award you for going out and getting 40 species, but nonetheless, we've listened to you as best we can in order to make it both competitive and to have everybody have a chance to take home, because 5 species, especially here in Ontario, 5 species isn't hard.
Easy, 1 body of water. But
Yeah.
10 species in Saskatchewan is a little bit more difficult. But regardless, there's different draws for wherever you live.
100%.
Not all of us are as skilled with as much experience and time as, our previous champions.
Yep.
But this will allow everyone to participate.
100%. 100%. No, well done. Well done, Mike.
All right. But that's not it. We have way more prizes. This is for our master angler category. We have a bag of 12 species. So your longest 12 fish across 12 different species, add that all up, and we have a major prize pack for that. Any 12 fish. If you're lucky enough to catch a sturgeon, a muskie, a pike, a bass, a carp, add 12 species, longest length across 12 species. That will be a massive Shimano prize pack right there.
And we are going to have a kids league as well. So all kids under 16 years of age, we'll be tallying yours as well if you are entered into the master angler side of things. But again, we want to make sure that we got our young anglers doing the exact same thing as you older folks.
So I'm curious who's going to win this, because those of you that are uber competitive, some were like, no, I'm not that competitive. I'll just put in 5 species. I'll just put in 10 species. But here, length matters. Length matters like it always matters in the CFN fish off.
Yeah.
Total length across 12 species. I am interested to see who will win this. Any guesses, Scotty?
16 years. Jeez. Well, Trevor, I would say Trevor Barnucz will be up there, and his buddy.
Bill Andrew will be up there. Bill Allen will be up there.
Yeah, there's going to be a few.
So we will see who gets the total length across 12 species. Now, in this draw, so this is not a draw. There is one winner. There is no draw. The math will, the tape will tell who the winner is.
Yep.
This one is a draw. So if you have the longest rainbow, you'll get a ballot. If you get the longest bass, you'll get a ballot. If you have the longest pike, you'll get a ballot. You can have multiple ballots. As long as you have the longest fish of each species, your name will go into our largest fish draw, and another massive prize from Shimano will be given out. And this one is a raffle. You want to try to get as many ballots as possible. Size matters, because the only way you can get a ballot is if you have the largest fish in that species.
Oh, okay. So, and when it changes, Mike, is it by the end of the tournament that you get the ballot, or is it every weekly draw?
No, at the end of the tournament, after 6 weeks, who has the longest pike? Who has the longest red horse? Who has the longest white sucker? Those are the ballots that we're going to take at the end of the 6 weeks. So, there'll be definitely some jockeying and lead changes.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how many ballots people get.
That's very cool. Very cool, Mike. Right on.
Next. Now, maybe size isn't your specialty in terms of catching fish, but you can catch a lot of fish. I could see a kid out there entering 200 perch. This one, any species, size doesn't matter. Maybe you'll catch 200 perch, 150, maybe sunfish, and a ton of gobies. Total number of fish, any species, you will be the winner. This is not a draw. This is whoever catches the most fish.
Wow. Which we've never had before. This is a prize too, like no other. So that's interesting. Good job. Good job. Like it. Like it.
Bill Landry caught like 1,000 perch. So that is the standard. I could see someone winning with over 1,000 fish caught. It'd be
Jeez.
awesome if a kid can do it. A kid can.
Can you imagine 1,000 fish caught? Oof.
I know.
Oof.
6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Unreal.
Again, we have a kids prize pack. So every single fish that a kid 17 years and younger catches, your name will go in the ballot. So catch as many fish as you can, kids, because that will increase your chance of winning the kids prize pack draw. And on top of all those new prizes, we still have our weekly Shimano draws and a bonus weekly draw courtesy of a CFN family sponsor. So every single week we have 6. We have our Shimano draw, our CFN sponsor draw. That's 12 other prize packs and all those new prizes. So Scotty, when we say more prizes, more ways to win, more ways to participate, that is what the CFN Fish Off is all about in 2023. And you can submit your catches both on Facebook and the My Catch app.
Right on. And drawing, as we draw closer to the start of the event, Mike and I will be doing our Tourney Tuesdays every Tuesday leading up, and of course after and during the event. So we'll be doing some really cool promotional stuff throughout the 6 weeks, and of course leading up to it and after its finale. But Mike, as always, buddy, you always put on a great show. What are you doing tonight?
There was like 200 kids here, and we are running a leadership program. So that's why this is the fisherman look, and then this is the teacher look. Thanks to Moose for this hat.
That's awesome, buddy. Right on. Well, you keep up the great work, dude. Thanks so much for your time tonight, and we'll talk to you soon, bud. Keep up
all right.
The great
Registration will be live soon. You got to go to anglersatlas.com or cfnfishoff.com to register. Watch out for it. Thanks. Take your kid fishing. Peace.
Right on. And here's a word from our sponsor before we bring up, last but not least, Moose Spur 2. Moose is in the house. How you doing today, Moose?
Great. Absolutely fantastic. How you doing, brother?
Dude, awesome. It's always I tell you, it's a rush every time to spend a little bit of time with our community. But of course, some of those important people like Moose, like Mike, Big Jim, Lawrence, and of course Jason. It's I look forward to this every week. I get lucky to spend that
Mike
with you.
Mike looks like he's getting younger and younger, eh? I don't understand how he does it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. He looks like he's getting younger. I saw him in the shirt and tie there. I was like, is that Mike?
Soon
for someone who just had a child, he looks like he's had lots of sleep.
Right? Yeah. Well, not lately. Well, maybe lately. I don't know. He's busy, man. That guy never stops, and he's always got something on the go. But
no doubt.
Holding and shaping the minds of our future is never an easy task. But Mike's got it well under control. What have you been up to, dude?
Oh boy. Life's busy. Life's good. All is well. Got out and did a little bit of perch fishing with the one and only Mr. JP.
Yes.
So that was fun. My boat's still away. She's getting a little facelift, so she'll be back soon, hopefully. So I didn't have a boat, and I didn't want to miss out on the whole perch thing. So JP and I went out to Lake Simcoe and did some perch fishing.
What a hurting on them?
Oh buddy, it was a blast. And that's the thing about perch fishing, like, you know, end of the season, beginning of the season are my favorite times to do it. I like the beginning of the season, like, you know, more the spring than the fall. But oh man, it's just so much fun. Like, it is the funnest type of fishing because it's so simple and like we were having chuckles, man. We were dying. We were laughing the whole time. Oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another. Get the net. There was an older couple beside us, and God love them. They were fantastic. But like, you know, perch are tiny, man. They're only like 13 to 15 inches. And all you hear from this good old boy, but all you hear from him is, get the net. And I'm like, oh my God, the net. Like, get the net. And he's yelling at his buddy, get the net. And he pull out this little 10-inch perch, and he's just happier than a pig in shit. Just, I got it. I was like, oh man, that's great. So yeah, good times. There's a lot of boats out there.
That's good. Well, and even during the week, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I see people are taking advantage of. Well, it's not bad weather. It's okay for fishing.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not too bad if you dress accordingly. Yeah. What about you? Have you been out?
No, I haven't, and I can't wait to get out. I don't know if this weekend's going to be the weekend, but I'm hoping to at least win a line somewhere. But yeah, no, I've got lots of offers. I'm looking forward to maybe hooking up with Tyler Brooks. I'd love to see our good buddy Ed McKenzie as well. So there's a lot of possibilities, lots going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're going to talk about the charity tournament.
I am. So, obviously the charity tournament is fast approaching. For those of you that don't know anything about the charity tournament, it is going to be on May 20th, and it is going to be a pike tournament out of Balsam Lake, Pride of Balsam. Now, I did share multiple times, and if you look at the OFC Nation Facebook page, at the top, the pinned post reads, OFC Nation Charity Tournament, Pride of Balsam Marina, May 20th, Lunker Bowl. So our charity tournament for pike is going to be based on length, and the CSFL are running theirs on the same day. So we've partnered up with them, and theirs is based on weight. So it's a chance and an opportunity to see what the CSFL does and how they do it. For those of you that have never been to one of these tournaments, it's a lot of fun. You could put up to, sorry, that was my phone. You could put up to 3 people in a boat. So the CSFL Lunker Bowl allows you 3 people to a boat. It's $200 a boat for the CSFL Lunker Bowl, which is by weight. And that's an hourly weigh-in, so which means you can bring in a fish every hour. And if you are the biggest fish of that hour, you win money cash. Now, the charity tournament, ours is based on length. So at the end of the day, we're going to use my catch. Mike's got it all set up, and you're going to take a photo of your fish. You'll have an official measuring device, and you'll take a photo of your fish, the length, and you'll submit it. And at the end of the day, we're going to have our weigh-in and our presentation to hand out money and loads of prizes. Just like Mike was saying, our good friends at Shimano have hooked us up yet once again. We've got a first, second, third place adult prize and a first, second, and third place kids prize, youth prize, along with a mitt full of cash. So that is what the charity tournament is all about. Now, I'm going to throw something into the mix just because we want to get more eyes on this. We want to get lots of people out. There is going to be a grab bag that you will receive at the beginning of the day. Now, the cost of the charity tournament is $75. The grab bag, so far, the grab bag value, I would say, is about $60 to $65. So you're going to get a grab bag with a whole bunch of goodies in it. There's going to be little games that we play in between. So if you catch something that's on the grab bag or something that's in the grab bag, our friends from Jackal threw in some rhythm waves, large 4-inch rhythm waves. If you catch a pike on that and you submit it, then you're entered into another sort of draw from our friends at Jackal. There will be food and drinks at the end of it all while we are celebrating the first, second, and third place victories. So lots of fun. $75. You don't want to miss it. Honestly, it's a really, really, really good time to kind of get to know a few of the other fellow anglers and see how the CSFL does their lunker bowls.
Awesome. So folks that are looking to register, that is where you go to register. That's either for the Lunker Bowl or the charity tournament, or both. You can register, as Moose says, for both. But again, love to see you out there. It will be a great day on the water. It'll be a great day when you're off the water. You're going to leave with a belly full of food. And as Moose just said, a good grab bag full of stuff as well. What do you got there, Moose?
Tons and tons of giveaways. Like I said, we've got, obviously, there's going to be cash prizes. There's going to be a first, second, and third prize, adult and child. So what I'm going to ask of our community. So CFNers, OFC Nation folk, I'm going to want you guys to tag a friend. So if you go to the OFC Nation Facebook page, you find the pin post that says OFC Nation Charity Tournament and Lunker Bowl. Share that. Tag a friend. Tag 2. And I'm going to pick one name next Monday when we come back on here. And I'm going to give them this rod and reel combo from Shimano. It's a Colaris 6.6 medium light rod. So this is what I was using out perch fishing with JP. Fantastic rod. Price retail in around $130 to $150. You will get the 2-piece Colaris just for sharing. So share, tag a friend, and we'll do a draw next week. Pick one name, and one lucky winner will win this rod and reel. Or rod, not reel. There's no reel. Rod and tag.
Rod and tag.
Rod and tag. You'll win both pieces, too. I'm not going to give just one piece away. It is a 2-piece 6.6 medium light. Super fun rod for panfish. Share. Tag your friends. And let's get out there. It's $75. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a blast.
100%. Really looking forward to that. And really, it's our first, I mean, outside of the trade show, it's our first real event together, right? A meet and greet since COVID. So again, it's just going to make that day actually that much more special. I know you've been enjoying tournaments, so you've got to, keep up with your peeps. When it comes to our community, this is really our first launch, our first crack at getting back. So I'm really stoked.
Well, I'm really hoping that somebody from the CFN Fish Off wins this and puts it to good use, because as much as the CFN Fish Off is like, it's now a staple. Like it's now one of those like online tournaments that you just have to do because you can. It's simple. I'd love for someone to go and catch a bunch of fish on this and feature it in one of their photos or something. So
that would be cool.
That would be neat, man. That would be neat. And not only for us, but for those people that support us. And, it doesn't need to be said, but again, the fine folks at Shimano, they have stepped up to the plate time and time again. And we want to show them our thanks and show them what we can do. And well, I'm pretty sure they know what we can do, but at the end of the day, it'd be just cool to get a little bit more recognition. So I am ready to go pike fishing. Everything's tied up already and I'm ready to go. So I want to see you guys there. I will be fishing as well. I will be taking 2 other people out with me. Like I said before, you can get 3 people to a boat. If you choose to go out on your own, that's fine, as long as your vessel is safe, it is waterworthy, and you have insurance. That was a question that came up. So whatever it is that you're on the water with needs to be insured. People insure their kayaks and their aluminums. You have to have insurance on your vessel. You got to be safe. You have to have a life jacket. If it's got a motor, you need to have a kill switch. You don't have to have a live well per se, because we're not transporting fish back and forth to the weigh-in. We're taking photos and measuring and stuff like that. But if you are going to compete in the Lunker Bowl, you have to have those things. You have to have a live well to bring the fish in safely and make sure that it is released properly. And yes, it is a catch and release tournament. It is not a catch and kill tournament. It is catch and release. So if you go to www.csfl.ca/registration, you will find the registration form. If you want to read the rules and regs, they're all there. We're going to follow the CSFL rules and regulations. And let's just be safe out on the water and have a good time. Like I said, if you want to fish out of a kayak, canoe, or an aluminum, totally fine, as long as everything is safe. And that is for the charity tournament only. For the CSFL tournament, you have to have a live well, a kill switch, a proper vessel.
Awesome.
Did I miss anything? Am I forgetting anything?
No, I don't think so, dude. I think you've touched on just about everything. One question that was asked of me by someone: are you going to be registering anybody the day of at the site?
So that came up in conversation. Yes, you can. You can. We were going to do a cutoff and say, hey, it is cut off by this day, just because we need to know how much food we're going to be bringing. But with that being said, we would appreciate if you guys went online and registered to give us an idea of how much food to buy. If, it comes down to it and you can't do it and you didn't register and all of a sudden you've got free time and you can, and you realize it the day before, absolutely show up to the Pride of Balsam, and absolutely we will register you on the spot for the charity tournament. But keep in mind, for the CSFL Lunker Bowl, you got to register online. So you have to fill out that form and send it into Vita and Victoria.
Awesome. Ed is asking, is there a minimum length for either of the tournaments?
So I don't think that minimum length is going to kind of fall into play. But to be honest with you, Ed, if you catch a, say, 15-inch pike, right? It's just a little guy, and you submit it for the hourly fish and nobody else submits one, then you've won a bunch of money for a 15-inch pike. But no, I don't think a length is going to come. I think it's Balsam, man. People will definitely, you're looking for giants. You're looking for big pike. There's big pike on Balsam. So no, first, second, and third. We might do cute fish just for fun, like have a small prize for the smallest pike for ours for length. But as far as the CSFL goes, I don't think there's a minimum length requirement. But keep in mind, Balsam has some big fish, but it is a tricky game. You know, do you bring your fish in the first hour? Some people don't bring in the first hour, and the first hour goes with 0 winners. Sometimes the noon hour, people think, oh, you know, somebody's going to bring in a fish. I don't want to travel back across the whole lake to submit a fish that I'm kind of on the fence about. So, and then once you pass the bridge, you've passed that line, you have to submit a fish. So if there's 3 other boats in front of you and you're about to submit a fish, but they submit a bigger one, and you know you have 2 fish that are, you know, one's big and one's small, I would submit the small one, go back across the bridge, wait till the hour restarts, and then go right back across the bridge again to submit your big fish. So it's kind of a game. That hourly weigh-in thing is kind of a game. So no, there is no length restriction on the pike.
No, 100%. And with the charity tournament, of course, we will be doing our very best to make sure there's a live scoreboard. So when you get, say, a 36-inch pike, but one that's 38 inches has already been posted, and maybe there's several others that are 37 and a half, 35. What we're trying to say is you don't necessarily have to measure every fish. With that live board, we'll be able to tell folks that, you can certainly enter it just in case something happens. You never know. But you'll be able to preserve the fish as well, because there won't be, at that point, if there's a 38-inch fish caught, there really isn't much point submitting your 18-inch.
No, and keep in mind there's a first, second, and a third. So submit. We're going to talk about a little bit when we get closer to the date. We're going to talk about how to take the photo properly, because I'll tell you, it's not one of those things where I want people arguing about photos and measuring tapes and this, that, and the other thing. Once a photo is submitted, if there's a mistake, you're going to resubmit the photo. If you don't resubmit it, then we're just going to take the one that was a mistake and either disqualify you or take a good look at it and figure it out. But it has to be clear, tip to tail, blah blah blah, all that stuff. I mean, you guys aren't new to this, but at the same time, there are some people out there that like to play stupid, and it won't be tolerated. I'll disqualify you, and without a hesitation and not a care in the world whether you want to kick and scream and yell and whatever. Go tell someone who cares.
So eloquent.
Yeah, no, listen, this is for charity, it's for fun. So if you're gonna bitch and complain about being disqualified, well, you should have taken an extra minute to make sure that the fish was measured properly. That's all I'm gonna say.
100%.
Right. So anyway, make sure you like and share that post, the pinned post that says OFC Nation Charity Tournament Pike Lunker Bowl. Make sure you like and share it, because next week we're going to give a Claris rod from our friends at Shimano away to one lucky person. Tag a friend, hit like and share, and that's all I've got, buddy.
That's awesome, dude. And Steve Shaw, looks like the Shaw family is going to spice the bucket up a little bit more with some possible prizes as well. So with all that being said, Moose, as always, dude, thanks so much for sharing your time, and we will see you hopefully on the water.
One last thing. If you're a boater, if you're out there and you're a boater and you only have one person in the boat, or you're just on your own, we will be looking for boaters to take out non-boaters. Some people want to do the CSFL Lunker Bowl, but don't have a boat to do it out of. So if you have a boat and you are okay with putting another 2 people into it, they could split the costs with you, and you can do the CSFL Lunker Bowl. So again, 1 day, 2 tournaments. If you got a boat, take a kid out fishing, take a friend out fishing, a neighbor, a grandpa, a grandma, a sister, a brother. Bring them out. Bring them out. It's hard to yell when barrels it. No, bring them out. Bring them out. I'm out, buddy. I'm getting delusional. I'm tired.
That's awesome, Moose. Well, as I said, dude, you did fantastic. Thanks for sharing your time, and I'm looking forward to that event.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
Right on, bud. You enjoy your night. Take care. Well, that's it. Another great show that's in the books. Again, can't thank our blessed and featured guests, Jim, Jason, and Lawrence, for spending every Monday as they do with us. It means the absolute world. And you know what? We go away a little more educated and a little happier too for that. So again, thanks to them, Moose and Mike, with the great announcements that are upcoming. If you are interested in participating in a tournament, CFN and OFC Nation will be providing you that ability. So stay tuned to that as we draw closer to both those events. We'll get more into the details of what you need to know and what have you. Outside of that, I hope all of you have a great week. Again, living vicariously through you. So thank you for that. Love to see all your fish picks. And of course, those who are using the inbox at the Canadian Fishing Network Facebook page, thanks for doing that. Keep up the great work. And to Steve and Walter, I don't know how you guys do it, but you do. And our community loves you for it, as I do our community. So on that note, have yourselves a great week. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. And now, Dave, it's time for you to take us away. Enjoy your week. All the best. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must